Hello and welcome to the Bend Like Bamboo Resilience Show. To bend like bamboo is to master change with flexibility. And on the show, I'm interviewing very special guests talking about all things resilience. So welcome to the show, Rosie Dumbrell.
Well, thanks for having me, Amanda.
That's all right. It's so great to have you. Thank you for coming on. Let me introduce you properly. So Rosie Dumbrell is a women's health interested physiotherapist with a background as a fitness, Pilates and yoga trainer. With specialist qualifications in pregnancy and postpartum fitness, wellness, and yoga. She's also a passionate mother to 3 boys, 4 and under, and launched Lenny Rose Active in 2019. Lenny Rose is a motherhood apparel brand that fuses functional sport, classic seasonless elegance, and stands to educate and empower women through pregnancy and motherhood through her podcast, Mama Matters, and Pregnancy Fitness, and a wellbeing platform, Rose Fit. Rosie knows firsthand the juggle of a family, small business, and physical and mental well-being, and is passionate about promoting positive body image through her brands, never photoshopping models on any materials and only ever working with real pregnant postpartum mums. This stems from having overcome a long-held eating disorder from her teens to early 20s, wanting to help women to embrace themselves as they are through every stage of their journey. Rosie, I think you're so cool.
Well, right back at you.
Now we met, I think it was 2014 by memory, so it was a little while ago.
It would have been at the at Rise, I think.
Rise
Yoga
Studio.
Your
yoga studio, which I went to religiously when it was open, and just your knowledge, like you're not just a yoga instructor, you really do have that, that knowledge on, you're a physio and you've just done so much, but you're really passionate. You're a passionate mama now.
I am, and ever expanding mother.
Lots of babies.
Probably easiest to hide on a little bit higher up camera. But
I love it. I told you the other day, you remind me of Emma Isaacs from Business Chicks.
My God. She's absolutely like an idol of mine, but I think 4 is enough. I don't think I'll go to 6. She's got 6 kids. Wow.
We'll see what happens.
Never say never.
Well, let's dive in. I want to talk about resilience with you. And first of all, what does resilience mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think resilience to me, I don't know, I've never kind of looked up a definition of it specifically, but to me, resilience is having the sort of the tools, the determination, I guess the want to sort of bring yourself back on course whenever, life doesn't go your way, and when there's like speed bumps and sort of, when things are sort of haywire. I feel like resilience is being able to sort of center yourself almost, it's a little bit like having in yoga we call it equanimity. So it's like the storm goes around you and you sort of, you're a candle that sort of doesn't even flicker. But I don't think necessarily that's exactly the same as resilience. I think obviously resilience, it's not that you don't get beaten down and you don't weather the blows of life, but you can sort of have the fortitude to sort of put yourself, one step at a time and just keep going. And I think it takes a lot of different skills to sort of have resilience. Yeah. And I guess, it's something that particularly we need to build in our young people and our children, to be resilient enough to just, weather what comes up in life. It's never works out the way that you think it's going to, and you're a really great example of that, of having had really, a lot of hardship at a time where you might not have expected it, and to have turned that around and sort of, being resilient enough to just to turn your life in a really positive direction when, a lot of people might not be able to do that. So it's a real skill, I think.
It's not an easy thing to do, and as we get older, I think as we go through stuff, we just get better and better at it. And some of us are able to put one foot in front of another. Maybe we're more extroverted or for whatever reason. I'm constantly obsessed with what's the difference between people that are able to do that more effectively versus people that find it really, really hard.
Yeah.
So do you have particular daily rituals that help you to be more resilient? in particular?
Yeah, I mean, for me, you know, I've got 3 little boys, and I think as a mum, it can be really easy to sort of not put your own health, you know, at the forefront. But to me, I've always still prioritized being able to move my body every day and to do something for my mind every day. Whether that's meditation or some yoga, or, you know, I tend to sort of, depending on what stage I'm going through, I'll have different sort of things. I do brain priming, a lot of sort of, yeah, brain training, brain priming, things like that. But
what's brain priming? Tell me about that.
well, it's sort of seated in neuropsychology, and you know, there's a really great British psychologist, Marissa Peer, and she says that our mind believes whatever we tell it, so you have to tell it good things. She's so great, isn't she? Yeah. And so, you know, we really are what we think, and you know, I've spent a lot of my life working on my physical health. I'm really passionate about like eating well, eating whole foods, and exercising every day, and listening to your body when the days don't feel right to exercise too. But by and large, movement is it's ingrained in my soul. I sort of have to move every day. So yeah, like neuropsychology is basically all that sort of brain priming is creating pathways in your brain that then can override perhaps what is subconscious to us. Like we all have our I guess our ingrained thought patterns, our ingrained habits. And, you know, for me, it's always been around like, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not smart enough. And in a lot of ways that serves a lot of people to be like really driven, and it certainly has me, but I also recognize that it can be a downfall as well. And it's also the thing that can stop me from, you know, being in the place that I want to be. So, yeah, it really depends on sort of where I'm at as to how much of that I'm doing. But it does really help me just to remember that, like, what we think, the thoughts that pop up in our head, they're not true necessarily. They might be subconscious. And I actually remember sorry, you go.
No, go on.
I just remember in a consult, kinesiology consult with you, you have this in your book, you've got this like iceberg drawing, and it talks about the conscious and the subconscious mind. And, you know, that subconscious does really rule most of our behavior. And so brain priming is about rewiring some of those subconscious brain patterns, and it takes work, but I feel like it's quite effective.
What I love about kinesiology, it helps me to identify what is going on in that subconscious, because the muscles are connected to the brain on that subconscious level, and using those Chinese medicine principles, it's just fast tracks. I guess that's my own version of brain priming is kinesiology. Yeah, I love that. It's so cool. You know what I love about Marissa Peer is she has this really great example of your body believes what you tell it. And I actually, I use her lemon example in some of my workshops, because it's brilliant. It's like, imagine you've got a lemon and you're chewing it, and you close your eyes and you just, you know, ripping the flesh with your teeth, and you're sucking the beautiful sour juices of the lemon.
Oh, I can feel it happening already just listening to you.
So you have this, like, you imagine it, and then you have this biochemical reaction, and then, you know, we're either in survival and stress or growth and repair, and it's a perfect example of what you think fires your biochemistry. And your body believes what you tell it, and then you open your eyes and you realize, no, there is no lemon there, but your body believed there was. And, you know, what you think, it's a butterfly effect. It ricochets out all of our thoughts, all of our feelings, all of our choices, what you say, our internal dialogue, how you talk to other people. This ricochets, sometimes you could say one thing to one person and it would affect them for the rest of their life. Like, how crazy is that?
Yeah.
So can you talk about something that you've gone through in your life that you've had to overcome?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it doesn't necessarily feel super relevant now, but I definitely think it's really shaped my life path and what I'm passionate about now. So although it sort of was a really long time ago, I was very unwell in my teens from an eating disorder, anorexia specifically, which probably really peaked when I was maybe, I'm just trying to think, around 13. And Yeah, it was very, a very sort of uncomfortable time in my life. Very, like, I was very depressed, very, like, socially withdrawn. And, you know, I think it came from this sort of perfectionistic nature that I have. And, you know, it's also being able to control something, quite often with an eating disorder. But I think for me, my self-worth was really never that great, and it's sort of, you know, manifested in that way for me. And it took a really long time to sort of, you know, I think people see eating disorders as a physical disorder, but really it's a disorder of the mind. And so it's a mental health issue, and it's not something that you can just sort of fix by feeding someone. So it did take a really long time for me to sort of get well again. You know, I probably wasn't really of healthy body and mind, and, you know, for 10 years or so. So that was, yeah, and probably in the middle of that, when I was probably in year 11 or 12, maybe year 12, that would have been like my real low point, like deep in the trenches of it all.
What a hard year to have that too.
Yeah, I was school captain and, like, you know, like head of like sporting teams and debating teams, and it was just so inappropriate. Like, it was really rife in our school, and I just remember, like, I wasn't the only like anorexic like school captain. Like, I, you know, a couple before me in sort of prefects and school years, like in my time, you know, in the 5 years I was in the senior school. So yeah, it was unfortunately quite common. And I think it does tend to go with that sort of real type A personality, real perfectionist, really driven. But, you know, and as I said before, like, those things can really serve us to do great things and to go great places in life. But it can also be the thing that undoes us. And I guess I'm just really lucky that I was able to turn that around and get healthy again. But, you know, it definitely was a very, very long journey.
Talk to me about how you felt at your lowest point. Talk to me about that part.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the lowest point, I was probably year 12, and maybe the following year I took a gap year, and I was working like 3 jobs. I'd get up and work at a bakery from 5 a.m. till 10 a.m. And then I'd go and work a cafe job from like 10 till 3 in the daytime. And then I'd go and work in a resort at nighttime from like 6 till 10 or 11. And I was just working so much, and I guess trying to like put it aside, and it really didn't work. And I think the turning point for me was just like my mum, and seeing her. I just lived alone with my mum at that point. And my sister had moved out when I was really, you know, maybe 12 or 13, so I hadn't lived with us for a while, and my father didn't live there either. And so it's just me and my mum, and like, she's my best friend, and she'd really like helped me through the tough times. But I could see that it was just slowly, like, it was killing her emotionally. Like, it was so hard for her because I was so unwell and I was so underweight, and I think she was just really getting to that desperation of like, something, this is, you know, I might not live type thing. So I could see, and I guess there was just a moment. She took me to hospital and was like, you know, you're going to have to be admitted to hospital. And, you know, we checked it out and everything. And I was just like, okay, I'm not doing that. I can do this. I'm so embarrassed. One, I'm so embarrassed. I don't want to be in hospital for this. And number 2, you deserve better than what I'm putting you through. And I think it was initially for her, like, I was motivated to stop giving her so much pain. And then, and so, that was probably my prime motivator at that point. But I was so depressed and lonely, and, you know, because it's very isolating. A lot of like socialization is around food and drink, and it's not normal to want to be involved in those things. So I found it very stressful, and I would avoid things a lot. And at that point, all of my friends were just like saying stuff to me, like, we're really worried about you. And it was and even their parents. And it was very like, I just was always like, I'm such a burden to everyone. And it was a really tough time. But I definitely felt like there was that sort of turning moment where was like, all right, I can't keep doing this to my mum. Like, she's my like rock, my number one, and I don't want to put her through the pain. So I think I was, definitely motivated by her to get better initially. And then over time, I realized like I had to do it for myself as well.
So if what we believe is what matters and also is connected to our bodies, what do you think you had to change your mind about that you were believing that manifested as an eating disorder?
For me, I think I was bullied a lot, like, for being a redhead, and I was, always quite skinny and had, oh my God, and had,
kids can be assholes, right? Like,
and just I had like, I was already quite thin, so I had these like chicken legs, and I think I just always felt so ugly and so unpretty, and
that's what you started to believe, I guess.
Yeah, really, like it took me till like my 30s to be like, all right, I can have like nice long red hair, and I do love my hair. I'm not ashamed of it.
Yes.
But it took me till like 30, literally. Like I always had these short, like, mohawk hairdos that I would like color different colors because I hated being a redhead. Like I peroxide. I was like that. Yeah. Who's the lead singer of Roxette? I can't remember her name, that lady from the 80s, but I literally had that awesome like hairstyle for a while. And so it was definitely around like feeling unworthy because I felt like I was ugly. And I always felt like I didn't belong. I wasn't good enough. I definitely feel like
true with their comments. And then how did you change your mind about it as you grew older?
I mean, so we tried seeing a few different people and things like that, but I literally would go to like one appointment and the person clearly didn't understand what was going on. Like back then, I really don't think it was like that, this is,
understood.
20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, like I just don't think it was really, definitely not that well understood. And so I was like, right, I just have to do this myself. And so initially it was literally just like eating recovery, like trying to get myself to a healthy weight. And I remember like my lunch break from like work, I would be like just like crying and like sipping on a Nippy's Ass honeycomb and like eating a sandwich and just like crying but forcing myself to eat it, like thinking about my mum. And then I'd be like, all right, I've got to go and have something else after that too. And I'd be like, I just think of my mum. But then, I discovered yoga in my 20s, and I think I, just really started to like realize that like I'm not what I think about myself. I'm not my thoughts. And that, like I have the power to change my life's path. And so, I think it was a lot of work in yoga, and I did go to this course. I'm just trying to think what it's called. They're really a Landmark. I don't know if you've ever heard of Landmark.
I've heard of Landmark. Very famous.
Yeah, really famous. A little bit cult-like, not necessarily like something that I would like, overly promote. But there was this one moment in this, like I did this weekend course, and it was like they got us to do this exercise, and I just remember there was like 500 people in the room, and like halfway through this exercise where everyone's like got their eyes closed and silent, I burst out laughing because it just clicked that like everyone is just as afraid of me as I am of them. And so it was really a light bulb moment. I'm like, we're all afraid.
In this. We're all in this. We're so connected. Isn't that what we've just learned in the last year? We are all so connected. And who is born with amazing confidence and self-esteem? Really. It's learned acquired.
It's learned. Yeah, it's absolutely learned, and it's rare. And I think, and I always assumed that confidence was like arrogance.
Well, that's important to acknowledge too. So maybe you were avoiding stepping into that because you felt like it could be interpreted as arrogance. That's really interesting. And it's so interesting that you talk about the issues of control in relation to eating disorders, because when I work with clients with MS, and particularly with my own journey with MS, it's very much about the brain, which is the control center. And it's always so much about perceiving that you're out of control. And then for me, I'm A-type personality as well. I will keep really busy, and I'm an overachiever. Sometimes I feel in control. We can do that with work, we can do that with food, we can do that with so many different habits, and it's so interesting how it manifests differently for everybody,
isn't it? So I think there were definitely like a few light bulb moments like that, and just a lot of work, a lot of inner work on retraining my brain. And I still have to do it to this day. Like, an eating disorder is like being an alcoholic. Like, you constantly, needing to put yourself in AA, basically.
What are your triggers?
My triggers, I mean, I'm not really triggered around food anymore. Like, it's not really anything to do with food these days. I'm still very conscious of putting healthy things into my body. But like, I'll eat an ice cream, if I want an ice cream, and I always have the birthday cake at parties, and, so I have a much more holistic approach. And I also really believe that, like, what you believe about something, what you believe about what you put into your body, like, is really important too. So if you're like, although, I definitely do really enjoy a plant-based diet and sort of whole foods and all that stuff, but that's because it makes me feel good. But triggers would definitely be
probably emotional as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's so funny. I just feel like you just attract, like, life has this funny way of like bringing into your life like what you need and what is going to teach you the lessons that you need. And I definitely, like, growing up, like, money was really like tough for us, and I think I've always had the belief that, like, money's bad, and it's really interesting that I've ended up, like, marrying someone who's relatively wealthy, and that really has pushed my buttons and has been really something that I've really had to work on, just like not being triggered by that, and
and receiving
frequently
that and seeing it as a good thing in a way that you can even sort of help and be more, and
that's been a really big journey, and still something that I have to work on. And I think especially because I still think I need to work on, like, worrying about what people think of me, because, I'm a really hard worker, and I always have been, and I'm so passionate about what I'm doing at the moment. And I really have to be, because it is a really big juggle with 3 little kids, and like, just trying to do what I'm trying to do with, the mini childcare, like 2 days a week. So it's, sometimes 3 days a week. Yeah. So it's definitely,
I've seen you on your journey in the last decade. You've like really chosen more and more projects that nourish you, that feel more very purposeful and have deep, greater meaning. Talk to me about Lenny Rose Active.
So Lenny Rose, we officially launched at the start of last year, 2019. But it's interesting. I mean, I've always been in that sort of health and wellbeing space, coming from like a personal training into physio and yoga. And as I said to you, like, moving my body has always been something that's so important. But particularly as a mum, like, just putting yourself first, putting oneself first, and in terms of like moving your body and educating yourself on sort of what's nourishing has been really key for me. And so when I was wanting to sort of continue my yoga practice and stay fit and healthy in my first pregnancy, I was just like, what the hell is this crap I've got to wear here? Like, I feel like I don't even want to wear that in front of myself. Like, I bought a few different maternity things and they didn't support my body. They were so unflattering, and they were quite either like, something really expensive. I won't name any brands, but really expensive and sort of more on that medical sort of side. And then they were really just looked terrible as well. They were really functional but looked terrible. And then, or there was just like really cheap and nasty, and you're not outlaying a lot of money, but like you'd put them on first time and the seam would split, or just really gross designs, not well thought out. And I just thought, we deserve better than this. So sort of was my first pregnancy, but it wasn't until my second pregnancy where I actually started doing something about that, because I was just like, oh, this again, I've got absolutely nothing to wear. I feel uncomfortable. I want to exercise, but I don't feel like I've got bump support or pelvic support. So that sort of started that journey. It was actually, my husband had a beer with a friend of his who worked at a clothing manufacturer and they were chatting, and then he was like, oh, Rosie should come in and chat to us. So I always like blame my husband when he's like, why are you working so hard? I'm like, well, you started it.
You started it.
So, and thankfully he did. But so that started that. But I mean, it's never really been about the clothes. Like I'm really passionate about Lenny Rose and about helping women to feel confident and to find stuff that like fits them well and makes them feel great and supports their body. But like it's also been a platform for me to educate women. And so,
great.
Yeah, it started with the clothing, and then early this year we launched the podcast where I share my own expertise, but I also interview experts as you're doing, and sort of, so everything from gynecologists, obstetricians to midwives to the women's health physio side of things. And then, I've just recently in August launched an online membership platform called RoseFit, which is a culmination of, I guess, my training and my knowledge. And, I was talking about my husband about this last night. I'm like, I feel like I just have this really, I have a really unique take on how a woman should prepare and move her body in pregnancy. And it served me so well. I've had 3 great pregnancies. Up to number 4 now. I love it. But, and 3 really amazing births, and like, unassisted, unmedicated births, really quick, and good recoveries. And I just don't think that's an accident. Like I think I'm
intention.
I'm genetically blessed for sure. But because of the way I carry myself in pregnancy and I start preparing I never stop preparing my body, but I start preparing my mind for birth.
Your body believes what you tell it. And I really believe you. I really think that does affect how your pregnancy and birth goes.
Yeah. So I start with my sort of like mind training, like hypnobirthing and sort of meditation, about halfway through my pregnancy. So like every day I'll meditate on it, and, I'm doing like yoga to help open up my pelvis and to strengthen my pelvic floor, and, and the way that I train my body in terms of strengthening and keeping myself pain-free, a strong body and posturally and all that sort of stuff. So I feel like, you go see a women's health normally and a women's health physio. So I'm a physiotherapist and I have specific additional women's health training and pre and postnatal fitness training, but I'm not like a traditional women's health physiotherapist in that I don't like see clients and do internal examinations and things like that. I have had some training in that, but I don't do that sort of as a daily thing. That's not my sort of bread and butter. But I feel like you go and see a women's health physio and you're pregnant and maybe you've got another kid, and they'll say, please don't lift your toddler. Here are some strategies to like not have to lift and like cuddle your kid. And I'm like, I get that, because I see you're trying to reduce the load for her, but I don't know. That's not how I want to live my life. I'm like, I want to be able to, unless there's sort of specific issues that you already have and you're minding those. I just think, like, why don't we help a woman be strong for the task that she needs to, and help her pelvic floor and her core understand what to do when it's under load, so that.
Love that.
I have 3 kids, and when I put them all in a pram, I've got this like pram that fits all 3 of them. It's probably more than 60 kilos, 65 kilos. And so to say like, oh, don't lift anything heavy when you're pregnant, I'm like, okay, that's great, but then how am I going to be fit for the task of what I need to do every day? So, and so I feel like I have a little bit of a different view on that. I'm very much like can help women to understand how to make their body,
how to maximize their situation.
Task.
The ripple effect of what you just said is enormous in terms of probably postnatal depression and how you feel when you become a mother for the first time and not feeling isolated. Like you believing in that and helping women with that is actually massive. That's so cool.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I mean, there is so much great research to suggest, and everything that I do is evidence-based. Like I've got my Bibles of like, thick evidence-based information on pregnancy exercise and abdominal separation and pelvic floor, and I've like studied those, and so I'm not just like picking some random,
you know what you're talking about.
That I think, it's sort of, it is my own thought leadership, but it's definitely based on, like putting the pieces together of what we know. But yeah, like some of the research suggests that if a woman exercises 3 times a week for up to 30 minutes until like when she goes into labor, that she can reduce the length of her labor by up to a third. She recovers faster, and she's much less likely to experience anti and postnatal depression. Like it's just literally like 3 times a week, 30 minutes. Like it's not a lot.
Totally achievable.
Yeah, so I just think like there's some really great evidence-based information as to why we need to move our bodies. And I think a lot of women are scared, maybe they don't know what to do. There's a lot of crap information out there, like, you know, like follow a celebrity who's doing this workout on Instagram, great. But like, is that really what we should be doing? I don't know. Maybe sometimes it's okay. Maybe a lot of the time it's not.
But you're educating and you're inspiring people with evidence-based knowledge, and that's really, really, really cool and important. So can you tell me, how is your life better having gone through what we discussed about, you know, how you grew up with an eating disorder?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like what you go through just shapes who you are. And like I said to you before, it's still something that it manifests in different ways now, and I have to keep myself in check for sure. But, you know, it's really helped me to be able to mentor other young girls going through it. I definitely do that less so now that I have a sort of full family, but definitely in my yoga studio days, I would sort of regularly mentor some young girls. And, you know, I think it's really shaped what I believe about, you know, what I feel like we have a responsibility to share with other women and to share with our, you know, our growing generation, you know, like to embrace who we are. And, you know, as the conversation about like hair or whatever before, like you know, I really love being a redhead now. Like I don't want to dye my hair a different color.
No, and you shouldn't. It's a beautiful, beautiful color.
It's really helped me to like, eventually embrace who I am. And it really, like, I really worry for, just like our upcoming generations, when there's just so much, you know, like even on video advertising now, like it's all airbrushed. Like it's not just like a static photo that they can like brush all the lines out and change people's body shapes. It's like video in motion. Like there's apps on that you can do on your phone. Like, and it just like, it pains me because it's already hard. Like, you know, it's already hard. And then those sort of things, you know, give us unrealistic expectations. So I think it's definitely put me on my life path, and it's definitely made me really passionate about supporting other women. And we don't, you know, we definitely use like just real mums and women in our campaigns and never Photoshop their bodies. And I think that's really important. And we've just increased our size range for our tights, and then next year we're bringing out bras up to like a 40 double G.
Cool.
So you've got to start somewhere. I always would have loved to start with that, but when you're testing the waters with a new concept, we certainly started with a much smaller range, but you know, it was always my vision to get there. So I mean, I think it's really shaped who I am and my values. And I'm really aware that even though I have young boys, not girls, I think, I mean, who knows? This little one could be a girl, but I doubt it. Severely doubt it. I'd be so surprised. I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know what to do. Anyway, either way, it's great. But I just feel like I have a responsibility to like talk in a way that's like positive about my own body and other women's and other people's bodies. And to, you know, I actually did an interview last week on my podcast with a body image researcher, and she was saying that like kids know from the age of 3 that like fat is bad and thin is good, and the biggest influence is in our home. And because, you know, it's our home, it's the media and it's peers, but when they're really young, they're not really watching media that necessarily would talk about that. I don't think they're not really subject to advertising, etc. Peers, like that's probably minimal as well. It really is like how we shape what you know, whether we make something fat that's good or bad, or whether it's just neutral, it just is what it is. And my 4-year-old's being like, Mom, I can't wait till your tummy gets really fat. And like the way he says it is so funny. I'm like, mate, me neither. Like it's gonna be so fat because there's a baby in there. I'm just like, I think once upon a time I would have like cringed, but I love it. It's great. I'm like, yeah, it's going to be so fat. Cool. And we just laugh.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, it shows how much you've grown and transformed. And, like the kids have obviously been a huge part of that. And to see it from a different perspective, yeah, mama's going to be so fat. Like, and it's cool. Like, it's fine.
And, they're like, oh, my tummy's so fat. And I'm like, yeah, it's because you just had a big, beautiful meal. And that food is going to like help you to like go and jump on the trampoline later. Like, it's fine. Like, it's not good or bad.
That's right. So tell me, if there's one thing that you've learned on that journey, one main thing, what is it?
That we are what we believe we are. Like, it's all up to us. I think, like we often look outside of ourselves for information and guidance and answers. And like, I think that's really great. And like, it's definitely helped me along the way. But like, at the end of the day, like I haven't found someone that like can really give it all to me. And it's by doing the work myself, going in and just like self-reflection and like, just really being aware of like what your mind's doing and how it affects everything that you do. So I think it really is like, it's going within rather than sort of expecting someone else to fix you or to give you.
And it's hard to do when we feel or perceive that we're out of control. You don't want to be in your body. You don't want to go within. So that's why it's really important to have daily exercises that help you to feel grounded and anchored and feeling good, because when you feel well and happy and relaxed and more in the moment, you're more inclined to see things with fresh eyes, see your situation from a different perspective, so you can change your mind that you may not be out of control as you originally perceived. And that's what it's all about. So what do you have 3 tips for everybody today as we close up?
Definitely. So I think this might sound slightly contradictory. So I've got 2 like sort of contradictory things, but I think they're both important. So like number 1 would be like, if you are really stuck and you feel like you can't sort of like get out of the way that you are, and it's not how you want to be, you're not feeling good, however it is, physically or mentally, go and find someone that can help you for sure. Like, seek support, and whether that's a friend or a professional, whatever it is, like definitely I think sometimes that can be a really good catalyst for change if you can't sort of like get that ball rolling yourself.
Love it.
But then I think like equally, coming back to what I said before, like no one else can fix you. So number 2 is like, you've got to do the work.
Love it.
You can definitely be inspired by others and sort of get some great guidance and knowledge and things like that. But at the end of the day, like, it's completely up to you, like how you run your day. And something that I'm like constantly reminding myself is like, I can like wake up and do whatever I want, like each day. Like, what do I want to do? Like, I have 3 kids and obviously have a business, have responsibilities, but I love listening to podcasts, and I listen to the Seize the Yay podcast as well with Sarah.
Yeah, she's
Davidson.
great.
And she's so great. And her one that she interviewed Carolyn, I think it's Cresswell, who's the founder of Carmen's, and she's got 4 little kids and obviously a very, very big multinational business. But she was like, every January I do like this big audit, and I'm like, how do I want my day to look, and how do I want it to start, and like what needs to go and what needs to come in, and just that constant reminder that like we might feel like we can't, but actually like generally like we can shape our day. And even if it's like, okay, we need to be in a job that we don't love because of the current global situation, and we just need to get some money in, or but that might be the case, but then it's like, okay, well, how do we approach that mentally? Like,
that's right. How do you conduct yourself in that, and who you are and how you show up is absolutely always a choice.
And then I don't know if that's 3 already, but my last one, this one, I always think, I just always remember, like, treat each one like the only one. Like, every time you like have a customer or interact with somebody, like, just treat them like they really matter, because they do. Like, each person that you interact with every day, like, really matters.
They do. You impact
Yeah.
people's lives. Like we said before, you can say one thing and it will impact someone for the rest of their lives, hopefully positively, but and sometimes negatively, and we don't even realize. But there's a ripple effect in all that we do. Rosie, I think you're so cool.
Oh, back at you. So great. I can't believe it's taken this for us to like reconnect, but maybe post-COVID we can have a hug and a coffee.
I would love that. We're 100% going to do that. And so if you want to check out Rosie, if anyone wants to check out your website and your beautiful range, it's lennyroseactive.com.au. And your podcast is on there too, isn't it, on your website?
Podcast is on there and RoseFit's on there as well. Like it's all kind of under the one sort of, parent brand. So yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on. And everybody, no matter what it is that you're going through, what you believe is what matters. And I believe that you can overcome anything and discover what you are made of. See you guys.